you this morning from Psalms, the 22nd chapter. Listen very carefully. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me? And from the words of my roaring. Oh my God, I cry in the daytime, and thou hearest not. And in the night season, I'm not silent. Our fathers trusted in you. They trusted, and thou didst deliver. They cried unto you, Lord, and they were delivered. They trusted in you, and they were not confounded. A cry for help. We all are burdened in life. But burdens cast aside. Now you've entered this place to worship. And that's what you now do. You reach out with every head bowed, every eye closed. You reach out and touch the very face of God. This morning, I want you to understand that the lives of Christian people have never been easy. Your lives are never going to be easy. As a matter of fact, in the 10th chapter of John, it says that there will be in your synagogue people who will kid you and think that they do God a favor. Look at what's happening throughout the world today. Christian people are dying. dysfunctional people. Another example of suffering is that of a young man by the name of Joseph. You see, Joseph, at a very young age, has been gifted with the ability to dream and interpret dreams. And so what he does, he dwells upon that. And he exposes the dreams to his brothers. But there is a particular dream where he tells his brothers, one day you will bow in humble adoration in my presence. And to add insult to injury, the father now gives this child a coat of many colors, which is a clear-cut indication to the boys in that family that their younger brother is the most loved and most cherished by the father. Now what this does is to absolutely provoke them to anger. In provoking them to anger, the brothers sought to kill Joseph, but because of God's intervention, the boy is sold to a caravan which is traveling to Egypt. There he is sold to a man by the name of Potiphar, who is captain of Pharaoh's personal guard. Now here's what's interesting about this story. This boy is now in bondage. Now listen carefully. And even being betrayed by his own brothers, he handles his bondage in a godly manner. Did you hear what I just said? Remember that song, "You've got your troubles and I got mine," but are you handling it in a godly manner? Now, you know, rather than Joseph getting all bent out of shape and getting bitter about what's happened to him, everything that boy is assigned to do by any quadrant of imprisonment that he is in, he does it with excellency. Now, as a result of this, people took note to it, even Potiphar did. And Potiphar promoted this very young, as far as I'm concerned, he's still a child, but he's a brilliant little fellow, and he promotes him to overseer Potiphar's house. Now, I'm not meaning that he is a little thing, he is a young man. Now, when Potiphar is away, Potiphar's wife is quite lonely, and she made some sexual advances toward Joseph. But handling things in a godly way, he decides he is not going to embarrass his God. Folks, do you remember, even David finally admitted, as I was committing adultery with Bathsheba, God, you were watching and listening. Joseph chose not to embarrass God. When Potiphar's wife is rejected of Joseph, her anger rose and she accused him falsely. Upon Potiphar's return, he could take only that of his wife's word, and because of this, he has young Joseph thrown into prison. Now, you all are all familiar with that story. You've heard it over and over and over. But my question to you this morning is, how unfair can life get? How unfair can your life get? Let me tell you something. I don't care who you are, how wonderfully you are put together, and how you approach life. Whenever adversity strikes in your life, it's going to point out to the world around you what kind of a Christian person you are and what kind of moral fiber that you've got. In other words, let me put it in old country boy language, it's either going to make you, brother, or break you. Adversity will make you or break you. Now, if you're going to survive such catastrophic events and failures in your life and the circumstances that surround you as a Christian, then here's a consideration you're going to have to make. A Christian life, properly lived, did you catch that context? Your Christian life, properly lived, is familiar to a giant signboard along an interstate highway. That signboard stands out there in rain, all elements that the weather can throw at it, and it projects one message. It promotes one needed statement. Have you ever noticed that sign out there on the highway, when it gets dark, lights come on? Regardless of the weather, you still read the sign. It only says one thing. It's silent. You can stand out there on the road and hoop and holler and jump up and down in front of it and shout and scream at it, but it's only going to say one thing. Its message never changes. Give you an example. Large signboard on the highway says Holiday Inn. Stay here, rest and be refreshed. Quite a message, isn't it? Especially if you're a weary traveler. And then how about the sign, the big sign that says detour? That's simply telling you you need to take another what? Route. Because there's possible danger out there on the road ahead of it. And how about the one that just says stop? And you all are already laughing, and you know what I often refer to that as. But folks, a stop sign is a clear message that some kind of action has to be taken on your behalf so you do not get hurt. It isn't difficult to understand. Now, but you've always got to ask yourself one question. Have you ever thought about this? If you're out there on the interstate highway and you're looking at that signboard that only says one message, what is it saying to you? There's the question. Hey, I ain't got enough money to stay at Holiday Inn, so I'll use Motel 6. What is that sign saying to you? That's the most important question that you have to have answered in your life. What's it saying to you? Why are you in such trial and turmoil in your life? Listen carefully to this. And I don't know how to emphasize it enough, but you cannot argue with a what? Signboard. Have you tried it? It will absolutely say nothing to you. It just says and makes a statement. You've got to ask yourself, what is it saying to me? What about my circumstance in life? Now I'm going to read you some scripture this morning. Leave you with this thought. You always have to remember the signboard never changes. Had you thought about that? It never, ever changes. Looking this morning into the scripture, coming out of Luke chapter 6, listen carefully. Verse 27, but I say unto you which hear. He that hath ears, what? You know, you waste your time coming here to church if you're not listening. But I say unto you which hear, love your enemies, and do good to them which hate you, bless them that curse you, and pray for them which despitefully use you, and unto him that smiteth thee on one cheek, offer also the other, and to him that taketh away thy cloak, forbid not to take thy coat also. Amen. Give every man that asketh. Look at verse 31. And as you would that men should do unto you, do ye also unto them likewise. But love ye your enemies. And do good. Lend, hoping for nothing. And your reward shall be great. Now I'm trying to put some emphasis on this scripture. You can't sit out there fat, dumb, and happy this morning. And I'm going to close it with that particular verse of scripture. And I'm going to ask that we now go to prayer and see what God has to instruct us from that scripture. Our Father, the lives of Christian people are never going to be without difficulty. We can't escape adversity or the times that our faith is going to be challenged. However, God does expect us to respond correctly. And when the evil of this present principality comes against us, we've got to remember, and we've got, Lord, these circumstances, and you know all about them. You've allowed them. And yet, telling us to be joyful when all this physical and mental trials come upon us, especially when they start to take control and we're really in a struggle to understand, God, what's going on? We've got, and we must, Lord, somehow remind ourselves on a daily basis in these circumstances, when these situations do occur, that they just don't seem logical. I mean, these things happening to us have to be demonically inspired. But when these situations occur that do not have logic, when things happen that don't make sense, God, you're trying to teach us that endurance and that there are benefits to our remembering what you have promised us. Anytime there is adversity